time to do the scalloping. So just to highlight how I do it, as you can see in this camera, I've got the original Blackmore Strat over there, so I use that as a template. What we have here is probably the best lighting just to get a template for you if you haven't got a Blackmore Strat of what these scallops are like. Once again, just trying to highlight that there's a profile. As you can see in this area here, it dips down and then gradually comes up in opposition to the Malmsteen Strat, which is a crescent shape, and that continues all the way up, and it starts to become Malmsteenish, if you like, about, or say here, so about the 18th fret. Now what I'm doing at the moment is just putting the tape on. Because I've got a bit of patience, I go through this method when it comes to patience, when it comes to guitars at least. I'll put a little bit of masking tape on there, just thumbnail, fingernail it into the side of the fret where it makes contact with the neck face, and then just get a knife and lightly, very lightly, cut along the edge of the fret and the fretboard. I say that because I would assume, I haven't done a fret change or had my guitar's frets refretted, but I would assume that if you go heavy-handed, you're going to go through a lot of tape. You might even cut through the lacquer, you'll cut into the wood, and it might cause a lot of chipping if you're refretting. What I do is I cut one side, then I just lay the same piece of tape down again, do the same process with the fingernails. Don't have to be overly accurate at this point because we're probably going to go through a fair bit. And just cut down here, continue that cut on, just watch you don't cut yourself with one of these things, and then just keep applying it there as you go. Now this takes a fair bit of time, so what am I getting out of this? Maybe 5 applications on the one fret, and it's not very thick, but if you're steady with your hand you can avoid going near the frets. And because I use some pretty savage sort of files initially, that's not a bad idea. So that's my method of putting the tape on. You may have a better method, or you may have seen a better method on YouTube or on the net, but this works for me anyway. So I'll apply it on a fair bit of the first part of the neck here on the frets. Alright, so we'll come back in a while when we get some of this done, and we'll start with the first fret, or the first fret space between the nut and so forth. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is have a shot at the first fret here, but what we'll also do is try and focus on the actual profile, which is if we go over to the other guitar, here's the profile here, this shape that we have here, and the contour of the whole area, which is quite different to Malmsteen style scalloping. So that's why I have the other guitar there. So, well, as I mentioned before, so we've got a template to use. Now let's have a focus in here on the first fret, or at least the first space here. Just one more little bit of tape so I don't muck up the nut and gouge into that. A bit of tape over that and we should be right. There we go. And the bins are being emptied at the same time. That's exciting, isn't it? Okay, so get into position because I'll be doing this for a while. Give it a bit of a scrape here. This is an old wood file that I got from a mate who's a piano tuner. So And as you want to get closer, you just bring it down to the end there, and away we go. Because on the Blackmore style Strat, oh excellent, as you can see in this camera here, it's decidedly deeper this end and then gradually goes to nothing. So there's no scallop at all on the top until you get up to about 15 or 16 in the frets. So that top string isn't affected. There you go, you can see it coming down just nicely there. It looks like it's going to have a nice contour in the actual. So you get a good view from this camera here. Actually, nice contour in the grain. So we sort of get we rough it out close to those frets there, without marking them. Now what I normally do after using that file is I come down to a little chainsaw file, which just smooths that out so quickly, it's not funny. Obviously you keep turning it and give it a bit of a bash out when it, yeah, the thing about these maple necks is that they do take a fair bit longer than a rosewood. Rosewood is so quick. It smells so nice too, the rosewood wood. Let's have a look at the profile. Yeah, I think we're in the ballpark there. So we'll go and get a bit of sandpaper, and the first one we're going to use is probably 60. Okay, so after the 60, we will head to the next one, which will be 220 or thereabouts. And what I'd do is use a magnifying glass. Especially with the light in the background here, it's excellent. It's like looking at a car panel to see if it's straight. You can see what your work's like. Compare it to the template again, and as you can see there, that's how it's shaping down. So I'm quite happy with that, especially on the high E side. To have it a bit deeper than not is a good idea. Just taking that lacquer off there. Need to get all that off. Like I said before, what we don't want to do is start concaving or creating a profile over on the other side if you're going to do the Blackmore style. But Malmsteen, you'd have it as deep as the Grand Canyon on the other side as well. Might even just whack a bit around here and give this a shot as well. Just to make it a bit quicker getting that sheen of the gloss. Now remembering this is 240. Then after the 240, I'm going to take it down again. But that's a nice contour coming into the... I'll just pick this camera up here and see if you can see this. There you go. See how the contours in the grain are starting to show up here. So that's looking pretty good to me. I'll just give it a check under the magnifying glass. And I'd say that's our first one done. So there you go. There's the first scallop. You see the contour here. Sorry, the contours in this area here. How there's none taken off here. All I've done is taken the lacquer off. and about here, this area here, it starts and it goes sort of in an arc to here and then up hard against this fret. I'll just let you know once again clearly what I bought. What I bought was 60 grade, 240, 320 and 600. This file here is an old file. You can get them in newer versions. Here's a new one from Aldi. So same sort of thing. However, this one's probably a little bit more aggressive and a bit bigger, a bit easier to handle. I use a little flat file like this one here. I'm just putting the sandpaper into the edge, getting up close to the fret just to get that that lacquer off, which is really not an issue, obviously, with a rosewood neck. Not a bad idea to have a fine look. And what I'll do is just rub some substance over there to see if we can get an idea of what it's going to look like when it's finally lacquered. That looks fantastic. Well, for me anyway, for my sort of effort. However, it does show up the scratches. And I can see that in this area here and this area here, we need a bit more of a blast from the sanding. So I might go back to the 240 for a moment and have a shot at that and see how it goes. Okay, so here we are, and I'm up to the 15th fret. Now, why that's significant is because it's the first place that it's clearly discernible that the scallop comes over to the bass E string and makes a little indent in there, as you can probably see from the camera over there. That's where you start to continue on up to 21, making, well, in this case it's 22, isn't it? Another 11 minutes worth of work. That's where you'll start to make an indent into the bass C side of the neck on the top edge there. Okay, so what I've done for the last part here is I've just turned the clamp around just as I start to get on the end of the neck where it makes contact with the bench. Clamped it so I can get these last 5 frets done. Okay, so there we have it. It's pretty well roughed out, a bit of a going over tomorrow morning. Give it a bit of a clean up. The grain is going to look quite interesting. And if you have a look at it, you can see it okay. It's sort of turned into a wavy type of grain for the bottom half of the neck. And there's that sort of funny twirl about the 10th fret, and then it continues on with that wavy sort of arrangement, and that's really what you get with scalloping anyway. Now, one thing to remember too, which I nearly made a blue on with this one, with the new neck, is that when you do cross over and you do start to affect a crescent or a scallop on the other edge at about the 15th fret, you need to watch out that you don't run into the position markers. But that went very close on some of those, is what I normally do is turn it around and do it by hand. But you can see with those position markers, just make sure you don't go through them. So what I'll do now, I've just prepared it, given a bit of a wipe. I'll run some masking tape around it, which is a good thing to keep in mind so as to cover any chipping down the side here. I'll show you a little trick on how to do that as well. Okay, so as you can see, I didn't beat the sun. However, what I just wanted to show you is an automotive spray painter showed me once how to set up your tape so that you can get a certain amount of spray going around a corner without having a hard finish like a hard edge from just putting the tape straight on like that. So what I do is just grab the length of the neck there, the fretboard, put it down here, on a clean edge of course, about halfway, if I can see that. It's pretty hard to see in this blinding light. And then just turn over the top edge, you'll be able to see that, and sort of turn it down, I don't know, maybe 4mm or something like that, and just do that, you know, close enough all the way along. And then just run it through like that, pull it off again, and then proceed to stick it to the heavy crescent side, or at least stick it to the side with the deepest scallops, whatever you want to call it. I think we can turn that around there. Yep, we can. And that'll allow a certain amount of paint to go around the corner, but it gradually dissipates so that you don't have that hard edge by just putting masking tape straight on there. It'll allow that a little bit of bleed around the side, and then we'll be ready to put some undercoat on.